Okay, I'm going to attempt to make some donuts. I have 225 grams of strong plain flour with 25 grams of butter. I'm going to put in there a dessert spoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt to one side, a teaspoon of yeast to the other side because the salt and the yeast do not mix well. And I have 125 ml of milk, which I will warm up so that it is tepid, approximately 37.5 degrees. I'm going to cheat today and I'm going to use my KitchenAid. I've got my dough hook on and I am going to just mix the flour with the butter so that the butter is blended in like breadcrumbs. Once the butter's blended in, I'm just going to crack an egg in and incorporate. Then I am just going to add my milk until it makes a soft dough but not too sticky. I actually ended up melting my butter in with the milk. I thought it would be easier. If you just look here now, it is a soft dough. It's not too sticky, but it's quite lumpy at this point. So I'm going to keep kneading it until it goes smooth and has the window pane effect. I've given this a really good knead. What we want to achieve is the window pane effect. So this is when you can pull it and you can see through the dough. That's a nice window pane effect. That is ready. I am now going to cover it and let it prove in a warm place so that the dough can prove and doubles in size. So this basically is an enriched bread dough with an egg in it. I've left my dough for about an hour and a half just in the utility room where the boiler is, so it's nice and warm, and it has doubled in size beautifully. I'm now going to just put it on a lightly floured surface and I'm going to split it into two. So I've just put it into a bowl. I'm going to make ring donuts with one half and filled donuts with the other. So with the first half, it says that this recipe makes 9 donuts. I'm going to just roll it out so that I can cut 4 donuts out of it. I'm going to use a cutter that is just under 3 inches and cut. Just re-knead this bit of dough here, do some mini kneading. And what we're going to do, we're going to shape these donuts and then leave them to prove a second time. To prove already. With the remainder, I'm going to add it to this dough. And then with my smallest cutter, no, that's a bit big, that this is too big. It's just under 2 inches, so I'm going to improvise and use the end of a piping nozzle so that I've taken more of an inch size out. She's got stuck in there. And I'm going to cook some donut holes. So I'll have ring donuts, donut holes, and I'm going to attempt some filled donuts. I'm going to make 4 filled donuts, so I've just flattened that out and I'm going to divide it into 4 segments. Then just re-knead these little bits to make them round. I'm just going to roll these out slightly. It's been absolute years since I've made donuts. I think I was probably a schoolgirl myself the last time I made donuts. But I think as long as you understand the science of the dough, then fingers crossed, all should be well. I'm going to do 2 jam and 2 Nutella. So I'm just going to place a teaspoon of raspberry jam, homemade raspberry jam of course, with homegrown raspberries. And I'm going to pull the dough together without any of the jam escaping. This seems to be, I possibly may have put too much jam in or didn't roll it out enough, so I'm just going to stretch out the pastry, the dough rather, so that I can pinch this together. I wonder if these will explode when we fry them. You probably think I fry everything. It's just that indulgent foods or treat foods do tend to have a little bit of deep frying in with them. And a lot of butter and a lot of sugar. Right, so that feels quite sealed now. So I'm going to just pull it out a bit more. This one's going better. There, that one's much better. Now for the Nutella. That's one of my biggest memories of France, is the donut man on the beach, beignet, with about 5 different flavours. So in France, rather than an ice lolly, they seem to have a donut in boiling hot sunshine. There, these are coming together much better. I think I put too much jam in this one. I will cover these with a damp tea towel and leave them to prove for another half an hour before I deep fry them. 4 donut rings, 2 raspberry, 2 Nutella and 4 donut holes. Remember which are the raspberry and which are the chocolate. When I fry the donuts, I'm going to just have a tray of caster sugar ready so that I can roll them in there. You need to roll them in the caster sugar while they're hot so that the sugar sticks to them. I've left my donuts covered for another half an hour. I probably could leave them for a little bit longer, but I've got a family Zoom quiz in half an hour, so I need to get them cooked. You need to heat your oil to 190 degrees Fahrenheit, but if you don't have a thermometer, pinch a little bit of the dough off, drop it in, and when it rises, the oil is ready. While I'm waiting for my fat to heat up, I'm just going to check that underneath of my filled donuts, just in case, as the mixture is proven, it's come apart. I don't want any jam or chocolate escaping during frying. I'm going to start with one of my donut holes. Just gently place them into the oil and cook them for about 2 to 3 minutes. Just halfway through, just turn them over because they're floating and the underside is cooking. I'm just going to put 2 of the rings in at a time. I've put the donut holes on the sugar and I'm just going to shake the tray. This is going to be our Saturday lunch. That's super healthy, isn't it? Now, fingers crossed for my piece de la resistance, my filled. I'm going to go with the Nutella first because they seem a little bit more stable. I've used a deep-sided pan and half filled it with sunflower oil. Something like olive oil would be too rich for this. in the flour does several things. It helps the dough rise because egg is a raising agent. It also tenderises the dough because the fat in the yolk shortens the gluten strands in the dough. The other thing you could do is get a paper bag and put some sugar in the paper bag and shake them in there to get an all over coating. There. There's the Nutella ones. So far so good on the raspberry jam ones. So far so good. Obviously you need to be careful eating these straight away because the jam will be hot and it can burn you. There we go. I'm going to have my artisan donuts with an artisan coffee whilst we do the family quiz.